Hello, hello. And today I am with my friend and co-editor of Failed Haiku, Kelly Moyer.
Hello.
And she is my favorite person to do busans with. We've seen thousands of each other's poetry, and we haven't managed to reveal the secrets yet. She knows my worst. But when Bryan decided to make you a co-editor at Failed Haiku, exactly what did he do? I mean, what was his approach? Was there bribery involved? Was there any hints of violence?
No, not at all. Actually, he called me at 5:15 in the morning when he was on his way to work. So good thing we're early risers. But no bribery entailed. And it was destiny. I was really excited to get the call.
Now you have been a guest editor a couple of times. You did it with Tanya once. You've done it yourself, and you've done full issues each time, if I'm correct.
Right.
Yeah. So you know what you're in for from that perspective. How did you enjoy it when you did it?
What's that?
You must have enjoyed it. How did what were the things that you enjoyed about editing Failed Haiku?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the thing I enjoy most is really getting to see people's best work, right? You put yourself out there with every submission, and so I see it as an honor to be privy to the latest that people are writing. Yeah.
Man. Well, what do you look for when you're trying to look at people's submissions? What are the things that you connect with, or the things you don't connect with? What are the things people should look for?
Well, honestly, I mean, there are qualities that make senryu really come alive, right? But for me, a lot of it is a felt sense. I feel as though I can pick up on whether someone's being authentic, if they're putting, and I like to feel the individual in the poem. You know, it's not just about a technically good senryu. It's where's your voice, you know, your experience, interesting connections. Those are the things that really excite me.
Well, and we have, of course, we look for poetry and themes that are senryu-ish. What are the types of forms other than pure senryu that you're looking to see, hoping to see?
Anything, bring it on. Bring it on, let me take a look. Well, no, because even in my own writing, I don't like to be boxed into a form, and I like to play. Some of the poets that I consider rising stars are the ones that think outside the box. And, you know, if you're going to fail hard, because that means you're putting all of yourself into it. So I would encourage anyone to, you know, to push the envelope, and you know, who cares if it flops, because it's part of the process to getting to wherever you want your work to go. And that's what matters, is what the poet is after. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? It's not whether this is going to be accepted by the community as a whole. It's just explore, play. Fail for me, you know, on the poet side of things, Failed Haiku has always been a playground. You know, there have been some pieces that were a little outside the box that you were excited about, and that let me know that it was a safe space to really explore and to play, and to go beyond what people might expect.
Yeah. Exactly, because, and the other thing is that they're in the level of experimentation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to fall asleep. I want something that excites and inspires me, you know, and that requires just being awake and alert to your experience and getting that on the page.
And one of the things that I've tried to encourage too is it's people have these ideas, the very firm ideas sometimes about what a senryu is. And I try and stay away from ironclad definitions. But the truth is, in senryu, Basho was probably one of the better senryu poets. He just didn't know it at the time. He didn't know there was such a thing. So I think that things like linked verse, renge, all of those things actually flow pretty heavily. I don't want to get in trouble with Gary Gay or anybody else, but renge tends to head pretty heavily toward the senryu.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Just look at what's out there. I mean, I can't think of a renge I've read recently that's pure haiku, right? You know, how do we keep ourselves from, we insert ourselves center stage in our renge, I think, and that's just fine. It's called the human condition.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that from a structure standpoint, 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 5 line, haiku, you know, they can all be done poorly, I suppose. But what do you think? Do you have any favorites or anything that you think goes too far?
Absolutely. You're talking to me. What do you mean goes too far?
This is your interview. I've got to pull you out.
No, bring it on and play. As a matter of fact, you know, in your Busan, I've seen a new form start to emerge. And that's just something that happens when we're writing and evolving. Nothing goes too far, you know, and let's blur the lines. I think that we've learned that, you know, just in terms of identity and any of the issues that we're dealing with today. It's like things aren't cut and dried, things aren't black and white. It's not a matter of, is this senryu or is it not? It's how are you manifesting it? How are you playing in the field, you know?
And I'll defend myself. You can defend your own self.
Okay, it's a deal.
But I think we're no different than Issa. Issa, in his time, he was writing about all kinds of things. He plumbed the depths of his own life and the simple joys of his own life. And the other thing that people forget is that I don't know a single senryu poet who cannot and does not write haiku.
Right.
And one of the things we have to live with the most as editors of a senryu rag is we get a lot of great haiku. So we gotta work on helping people understand more the senryu genre itself. So tell me about your background and how you fell into it a little bit. You have edited before. You've done some things for Modern Haiku Press. Want to tell me about that?
Oh gosh, I'm really not fond of talking about myself, Mike.
I know, but this is an interview, and if I give the interview, it's a little bit boring and it doesn't reveal anything about you.
And I showed up. Okay.
I can start telling secrets if you want.
Well, you know, that would make an interesting conversation, actually, because you do have a few.
I do.
But no, you know, when I was in school, I was a literature major in college. Went to Northwestern, had a wonderful experience studying under Ann Winters. Robert Pinsky was a visiting professor that year. Yeah, good stuff.
Oh, man, one of my favorite poets. Yes.
Yeah. Cool guy. And years later, when I was reporting, I got to cover one of his readings, like out in New Jersey. And that was kind of fun. It's a small world.
Samurai Song is one of my favorite poems.
He's a good guy. Cool guy. So that was a wonderful experience. And of course, I immediately started setting up writers groups in Chicago. And I was writing a lot of free verse at that time. And I have a collection of free verse, Scarlet Apples and Cream, that was put out way back in the day. Had a small press in my late 20s. So I was publishing literary journals. Yeah, and then here in recent history, Lee Gerga and I co-edited Blossom Moon for the Waukesha Haiku Group. Tanya McDonald and I recently did Paper Mountains, the Seebeck anthology. So that was a whole lot of fun. We've done haiku dialogue and this and that. And Lori Miner asked me to guest edit Femku. And that actually I did with Tanya as well. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I have my hands in a few pots.
Yeah, and you've actually, when you did Failed Haiku too, I mean, you were very, you and Bryan both have this the same quality. You're both, you give quick answers. By quick, I don't mean you don't read the poems. I mean, respond very quickly to people.
We consider them thoroughly. Yeah.
And I was so happy this last time because now that I had an internet, I could actually reply to people in minutes and days instead of weeks. And that was so revealing to me. Get back to the old way. When I first started Failed Haiku, I said, I'll give you an answer in 5 days. And then I was going 3-4 weeks because I didn't have any internet. But both of you are very quick to respond and generous in your comments to people. So that's one commentary I'll make about people's responses to you when you edited Failed Haiku. So
I'm blessed to be able to put Failed Haiku as my top priority now. I'm at a point in my life, seriously, I'm at a point in my life, my son's grown. I get to allocate my time in the way I want to, which I don't think many people get to say in this lifetime. So I realize how fortunate I am. And the timing worked out well. From your and Bryan's invitation to do this, it's like, yeah, absolutely. So there's nothing standing in the way. And, if poets need to communicate, please reach out. Let's have a conversation. Because that's the other thing I realized, for years and years and years, I wrote in isolation because I wasn't smart enough to realize that haiku had actually entered the interwebs, right? I mean, when I started writing haiku, everything was print. You were sending everything snail mail, and it never dawned on me that we had that presence. So now, we have access to so many people. Do you know how much I learn from other poets, seeing their work on Facebook, looking at new journals? There's so much exciting stuff. I mean, when you talk about pushing the envelope and moving away, or not even moving away, but expanding our conception of haiku, senryu, look at these journals that are coming out here now, over the course of COVID and beyond. The time when you'd expect us to be fallow is when we've been able to really dive in. So there's a lot of good stuff happening.
Well, I had just the opposite experience because I came in entirely because of the internet and I stayed on it. I've just begun to start submitting to print journals, and not because I had anything against them. It's just I was so caught up in what was going on. But I'll give you a hint of who was one of the first people to spot the internet as a change vehicle. And that was William J. Higginson. In fact, he delivered a paper called The Wevolution of Haiku back in 20 years ago. And he was on the web before that in the 90s. That's where I first ran into him. I didn't run into him. I had the haiku handbook, but I had never had any idea who he was or where to find him even until the internet. So, and his stuff is still up there.
Yeah.
Still. So the internet is one of those places where you can do it. But what you're saying about one of the secrets of being an editor is we're really sneaky. We talk good poets into sending us their best poems.
That's true.
What's wrong with this job? But what people don't realize is that we read in Failed Haiku, we're talking about a couple thousand poems a month.
This is true.
That is more than anybody chews up in a year. You know, so you got your work cut out for you. And it was Bryan who wanted to have you on board. I have no objections. But he needed somebody who was in sync. And the other thing is we needed somebody, because of the volume, one person, it's very difficult for them to do it by themselves. I didn't want to pass it off to one person. I didn't think I could find anybody. So the two of you, it's pretty important to me that if I'm gonna slide out the door, that I leave it with people who can do the job. And we've got Haiga too. We haven't discussed Haiga or Haiga very much. You want to give your views on those two topics?
You know, just send it and explore. You know, when I was talking earlier about that pomegranate piece that was a little wacky that you published, you know, that was Haibun-esque, you know. So if you have questions about anything, you know, just put -esque and it qualifies, you know. I'm open to, and you know, and the thing is, the possibilities are endless with Haiga too.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. You know, what is art? Well, photography, painting, mixed media, bring it on, bring it on. And just don't hold back. Don't hold back a bit. If you have an idea, run with it. If you don't have an idea, just sit down, paint, write, do whatever it is. You know, we talked a little bit during Senryu Summit about, you know, setting out to write. For me personally, I don't set out to write a specific thing unless there's an inspiration. You know, it's whatever comes, because to me, the subconscious is a huge part of any effective creative endeavor, right? Because what comes from the subconscious isn't pre-edited, you know, like we do with our conscious mind. So yeah, you know, and I'm not saying that everything has to be wacky or obtuse or anything like that. You know, Al has a great definition of senryu. A straight senryu, send it, absolutely. But if you want to play a little bit, let's see what you can come up with, you know. And all three of us, I think, support that wholeheartedly. You know, we want to see exciting things happen in the journal.
Yeah. And that's the whole premise of Failed Haiku, is that people have, you said, at a playground, come out here. And I tell people all the time, and I know that you and Bryan agree, hey, if I choose something and you don't like it when you're reading it, move on. I mean, there's hundreds of poems in every edition, so in every issue. Well, I don't care if you don't like something. And I don't like things about every single journal I read. I wonder, why was that chosen? What was the matter with so and so? And they're the great editors. You know, there's always some of them. There's some poems I think, why did they choose that? I don't bother to email them and tell them how stupid they are, although I've occasionally gotten those from people telling me I made a mistake. What?
Well, and also, you know, editors are more than human, right? So we're looking at this through the lens of our own experience. And something that resonates with me may not resonate with Bryan and vice versa, you know. So if just because a piece isn't accepted for publication in a specific issue doesn't mean it was rejected, if that makes any sense. You know, so if you think that something I pass on in lieu of something else of yours it has merit, Bryan's probably going to do the next issue, or a guest editor's going to do it, and they may just be blown away. You know, so a lot of it is perspective as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that there are things that I miss all the time in poems. One of the I've said this before publicly, but Steve Hodge and I got along really well when he was editor of Prune Juice. I really enjoyed what he was doing. He really enjoyed what I was doing, and we hung out together and we judged contests together, and it was great. But we both were willing to take experiments. And sometimes he would publish something in Prune Juice that I had seen and thought, you know what? Then I'd look at it again and I'd think, oh my God. And sometimes when we were judging contests together, I would say, I don't know if that one makes the grade. And he'd point out something and I go, holy Christ, I missed it. Yeah. Completely missed the point of the poem. The other thing that I think is important for people, and it happens to all of us, is that you're competing with your own work. Sometimes people submit, I'm not going to put the C+ next to the A's.
Right. No, absolutely. And for me personally, I prefer that an editor, I as a poet, prefer not take the entire submission, because I want the strongest work to really sing. You know, so a lot of it has to do with subject matter. You know, is it a complementary sort of representation of your work within this issue?
Right.
So that's one thing that I consider. And if something's stellar, I kind of want it to have the focus. You know, I don't want to water it down with your C+ work. So, you know, and the thing is, you know, nothing is ever done out of malice. I think across the board, throughout the community, we all want one another to succeed. Right. Amongst poets, the editors and the poets and the editors, we want to see the journals do well. The journals want to see the poets do well. You know, so it's a very affirming community. So anytime you're uneasy, at least with us, you know, reach out and let's talk about it, because if you wouldn't want there to be a misunderstanding, you know, why didn't you take this piece? Well, if I tell you it's because everything else was so damn good,
yeah,
maybe you'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's sometimes it just doesn't fit in. You have the example I always use is a real one, but I won't name the poet. You have 3 poems about your family and your kids and how much you love them, and they're just really funny and cool and happy. And then you've got the bad divorce poem. Okay, I'm going to take the 3, the 3, you love your family, and I'm going to leave the divorce poem for Prune Juice or someone else who will have it, you know. And then that's about editing. The other thing that I think we need to reinforce to people, I'm going to try and keep hammering it. A good deal of the work we get, the reason some people get 5 or 6 published is because they've been published before. They've won contests before. And somebody said, well, I don't know why people don't seem to remember it, since it's right there in the submission guidelines, but we take previously published work. So I have actually told people, Prune Juice doesn't do that. So if you send it to Prune Juice and you get it published in Prune Juice, fine, be polite, wait a couple of issues, send it off to me. There's no guarantee that I will take it.
Right.
Okay. And that won't say anything about Prune Juice. But you have a much better shot if you want to recycle, because some poets, like the two that are on your screen right now, if you're watching this, we write a lot. Okay. We write a lot of poems. So we've got a lot of ammunition to throw out there. But that, you know what? If you only write 36 poems a year, you got a good shot of being in every issue of Failed Haiku. What can I say? Anyway.
Absolutely. You know, and also, to me, the juice is where it's at.
Yeah.
Right, which, you know, I can taste and feel a mile away, you know, when a submission is good and juicy, and that means that it has your heart in it.
Yeah.
You know, as a poet, I've gotten to a point where I only send out the pieces that I really like and that I really stand by. Not to say that you have to adopt this philosophy, but the thing is, that's where the reward is. You know, if you don't care when a piece is published, you probably didn't have a whole lot invested in it. Whereas if you're excited to see it out in the world, that's not only rewarding for me and the reader, but also for you. You know, and so the stuff that excites you, the stuff that you invest yourself in, which oftentimes takes a little bit of experimentation, because when you have an aha moment, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it when you hit on something good.
And that doesn't happen every time.
Not every time.
Not every time, not even close. Most people, most poets, when you sit them down and talk to them, people who have been published many, many, many times will tell you it's a small percentage that actually walks out the door.
Oh, totally. You know, and I've always said, if over the course of my haiku, senryu, haibun, haiga career, only one piece has staying power, I'm good. I'm good. You know, so it's not a matter of quantity. It's really about putting yourself, sharing yourself with the world through your words.
And it's you and sharing your world with people. It's everything about it. Haiku is sharing the natural world that we all live in, whether we like it or not. You can't avoid it. That's part of, we also live in a human world. We bump into tons of humans every day, and so and they influence us, infuriate us, make us hysterically happy, make us laugh, and make us cry. So that's what senryu is.
Oh, absolutely. And I think another thing to remember is you are not the same person you were yesterday, right? So when we have an idea of, you know, Mike is this kind of poet, Kelly's this kind of poet, maybe that day, maybe for that moment, but as our lives change, we change. And so don't be afraid if you're not writing the same way that you used to, because that means you're growing, that means you're evolving. And it may entail some stumbling and some missteps, you know, and some exploration, but that's where the good stuff is. So I think a lot of times people try to live up to this idea of who they are as a poet. That's only holding you back.
Exactly. And when it comes, and that's where people start to focus on topic, and I'm a this and I'm a that, and I'm a short, long, short kind of person, or I only do one-liners. People don't realize Marlene Mountain, although she was the most prolific one-line haiku person in the planet, did not have any problem writing 5-line haiku.
Mm-hmm.
She was willing to go all the way out there when she wanted to, whenever she felt the need. And those are the people that I think actually have the most impact. So, and you have had an impact on me. You have altered the way I write, because
I'm sorry.
no, don't. We write together. We've done some collaborations together. We've done things, and I have to change. I have to make an adjustment, and so do you. I'm sure. You're
Oh,
saying, what the hell did Rehling just do with my picture?
Well, I knew that the influence was inevitable when I started writing about air guitar. That's what
I find that the fingering is what it's all about with the air guitar. I mean, you know, if you haven't got that, don't attempt. Stay away from it. Anyway, I finally got you to pull out a little bit, tell about yourself. And we're going to do a longer interview, but I think I've given people an opportunity to at least understand what they're getting into with you. And I can tell you folks, with Bryan and Kelly, I've got two people who will look at anything you send them, be friendly and kind to you when they respond, and who are on your side as a poet. So, and that's all I can ask for. Passing the baton to these two, I think, is probably the most heartwarming thing I've had experienced, because I thought I had to think, am I going to just shut down Failed Haiku? And that's happened. I've had several good friends, I won't name them, who had to shut down their zines, and after great runs of many years. But Alexis Rotilla was my she has not edited Prune Juice for more than a decade, and yet Prune Juice lives. So she was my role model for passing the baton rather than just throwing it in the river and letting it float away. So I appreciate you coming on board, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you and Bryan do with my old toy.
It's an absolute honor.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. I thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Bottom of my heart. Take care.
Bye.